Avonte Jones. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good
It's a pleasure.
It's going to be great to catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
So November, what is today? November 12th?
November 12th.
What have you been up to recently? What's the year been like? I've had a couple conversations with you sitting in the sweet college counseling wing, and give everyone a little bit of a Avonte Jones update.
Well, unfortunately, it's not a whole lot of good news. I've had 7 very close deaths in 2021.
Oh my God!
So this has been the year of super duper grow up for me, and meaning I had to mature. I had to, step up and, try to put on my strong face. And putting on my strong face, that doesn't just mean like, not showing emotions. That means showing emotions, in which that's not always easy to do.
Yeah.
So, when I feel like I need to, have a breakdown and cry, to go ahead and do it, it's okay. That's not like, me being wimpy or, grieving too long. That's not really a thing. You got to do it. If grieving long is not grieving wrong.
I like that.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
It's something, it's a part of life. You have to grieve so that you'll have a healthy future, Death is a part of life. It's inevitable. However, and this is something that I learned in this process, we spend our lives loving people, people teaching us how to treat them. You hear this all the time. You need to teach people how to treat you. So you're teaching people how to treat you. People are learning how to treat you. And you get that special love and that bond for that person, and then poof, pow, they're gone. So what do you do with that love? And, that, love that you had for that person, it stays there, remains. And yes, you will grieve that person, you'll miss them. However, that love is still in your heart, and you just keep that heart, that memory in your heart for that person, and just know that they're always with you. And so that's kind of helped me to grow up. And, you still have to push forward. You still have to produce every day. You still have to get up and go to work. You still have to show up, and do your daily chores or duties. So I learned that in the midst of pain and hurt, you still have to show up. You still have to produce, but you can hurt and grieve while doing that. And so that's what 2021 has been for me this year.
Wow, sorry to hear that.
I know it, but you know what? It's a sad thing, and it is a huge loss in many ways. However, I can say that, like I said, now I feel like I'm my real grown self. Like I'm really mature, grown Avonte.
Yeah.
I can't throw temper tantrums because I'm hurting. I have to learn how to control that. That's not been easy, but I've had to learn to do it.
Yeah. Wow. How about professionally? Like, what have you been working on lately in the college counseling wing?
Yes. So November 1 deadline, everything has been kind of geared towards those early decision deadline applications, and getting, the applications, the rec letters, transcripts, making sure all the, the transcripts were in. I mean, the rec letters were in.
It's such a rush.
It's
end of October.
Yes.
Those last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And chasing people down, chasing kids down,
running reports, all that.
Jake Scott down, make sure he's writing his rec letters.
Well, Jake Scott, it's okay. You did it, and, we're grateful. So, and yeah, it's like this big, huge rush, and then it's like the calm after the storm.
Yep.
And so that's where we are now. We're, like kind of sweeping up the the fragments that have been left over, and getting those things done. And now we're gearing up for our junior class that's going to come in and take over that slot. So it's a cycle, and you have your little moments of rest, and then the big rush happens again. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, I teach a senior elective class, and all through like September, October, you can feel they're anxious. Yes. And they're writing, they've got all these essays, and like their feet are, I noticed their feet like tapping. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
You guys are anxious.
Yeah.
And then like November 1st, I think some of them still have some recs
a little
to write.
bit, yeah, yes.
But like their feet stop tapping around, and they're actually chilling a little bit.
Yeah.
And
yes. And even the office visits, when they stop by now, it's less, intense. Because so when they come in the office, they're like, it's so. I'm like, hey, calm down. Good morning. I get it, but calm down and say hello. And so now they know, when you come into the college counseling office, put the nerves down, speak, and then, state, what you're looking for.
You're the perfect person to sit in that room, I think, because I know some people who sit at front desks, and I feel like in my high school, and you get some, like at the YMCA where I live, you get some people who hate that job, and they're pretty miserable, and they're kind of mean, and you can't put someone at the front desk if they're not like cheerful and pretty, happy and calm.
Wow.
Which is good. I mean,
yeah,
that's your spot.
Well, yeah, it's my spot. I enjoy it. I can't say that I'm always the happy, pleasant person, but for the most part, I try to maintain that, that posture.
Yeah. How'd you get into kind of college counseling, and how'd you find Gilman in the first place?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, I started working in independent schools back in 2013 at Garrison Forest School. And so, I kind of got bit by the bug. It's nothing like working in the school system. You get your winter breaks, you get your spring breaks, and, all of these great breaks that you may not get in the corporate environment. And so I kind of took a liking to it, and especially working with the students. That's like the best part of it. And so I'd worked there for, 6 or 7 years. And then, I was ready to do something else, kind of broaden my horizons. Okay, I've had my experience in independent schools. I want to stay there, but let's see what else I can do.
Right.
And just kind of started looking around and putting my feelers out there among my friends. And, something came up at Gilman, and it's like, Vivian Sawyer's retiring.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great spot for you. And, we got the balls rolling, and that's how I ended up here.
So you were at an all-girls school at Garrison Forest for 6 years, and now you're at Gilman. What has the difference been for you from the all-girls environment to the all-boys?
Yes, it's honestly, it's a huge difference. And I don't want to sound sexist. If I feel like the girls, they're more like, they're clingier, they're more emotional, and they want to hang out and hang around my desk and sit, any day you could come back and see a girl sitting, against the wall behind my desk. I just need to sit here, Miss Jones. And so, that was their safe space, and it was fine with me. I feel like at Gilman, the boys, they are less clingy. They want, the love and attention that the girls wanted, but they're not as forthright, I guess, in asking for it, or, you know what I mean? They're more like, kind of passive with it, but they need it. So,
right.
you tend to, I had to learn to adjust that the boys don't need as much emotional support as the girls did. Mm-hmm. I miss the girls, though, I gotta say, because I can't talk hair and makeup with the boys.
Right.
So those things like that, and they would come in and they want me to help pick their prom dresses out and things like that. So
awesome.
I miss that, but but I've enjoyed working with the nice calm smoothness of the Gilman School environment. That's an enjoyable experience as well.
What is Garrison Forest as a school like? I mean, I know really very few things about it. I know it's an all-girls school. I know it's pretty close by, but I don't really know what the kind of environment is like, and maybe how it's different, similar than Roland Park, Bryn Mawr, all the other all-girls schools in the area.
It's well, I would say it's a little more intense of an environment. Intense and I'm trying to find the right word. I'm gonna stick with intense.
Yeah.
The environment is more intense. Gilman's a little calmer. It's not as you gotta get it done now, or don't do this, don't do that. It's more, hey, we're gonna get it done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And those are not things that you can do. You know what I mean? It's a different type of intensity between the two. So when I came here, it was like, oh, I can relax.
Yeah.
I don't have to, that deadline is not like a literal deadline, like you'll die if you don't meet it, but it's the intensity, they're different.
Yeah.
I tend to like the Gilman environment a whole lot better than the Garrison environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of work specifically are you kind of doing on a day-to-day basis in the college counseling wing? Like what's like a typical Avonte Jones day kind of consist of, or at least recently, what has it been consisting of?
Typically, I have, of late, we've had the college rep visits, so prepping the day for that, making sure I have, the information available for our dean so that they're knowing, who's attending these rep visits. So that's the top part of my day. And then, whatever reports I have to run for the day, whether it's sending out transcripts to schools. I mean, I'm still doing that. I have to mail transcripts. I have to electronically send them. Also, whatever phone calls I get background checks all the time. I mean, you would be surprised at how many background checks I get per day. So sending off background checks for students who've graduated and now looking for jobs or, in the job market. So the process, it really doesn't stop. So it's, it's like the continuous thing. So maybe this kid, got a job and now they're looking for another job. So now I have to do a background check for them. So you know what I mean? That's also part of my daily process. Greeting people, kids coming in, having questions, helping them register for SATs, whatever knowledge, at some point we were working on PSATs, SATs. I mean, you name it, anything pertaining to college, testing, schools, my day consists of that, sometimes I have to run reports to compare how student may have progressed after they took. So we have this ACT, Capital Pine, they kind of come in. I'm sorry, it's Capital, the guy's name is Phil Pine, who runs the company. And it's Capital Educators, I'm sorry.
Got it.
Okay, so they run a mock ACT, and what they do is they kind of run these classes every weekend to prepare the students for the test. So once they take this test, they want to see how the student did on the test after the classes and before. So running reports like that. And Rachel Gorski requires a lot of reports from me. So I run reports for Rachel Gorski. Admissions, they need reports from us, just like the testing, the numbers, so that they can put in, their paperwork or whatever. So, I mean, anything, a range from that all day. I'm working on it, so.
Yeah. Do you think some of the standardized testing, like the SAT, ACT, do you think that's going away at all? Or is that, because I know that some schools have made that test optional, right?
Yeah.
And that always has kind of confused me. And I don't really know if I have a opinion on that, but
yeah.
I just think about my experience with the SAT, and I had a tutor, and my score rose because I learned how to take the test. And some students, can pay for a tutor and, get that help, and others can't, and how that affects people. And I kind of understand maybe why some schools are going test optional.
Yeah.
But I always think about if that's going to be part of the application process, 10 years in the future. Is there going to be an SAT? Is there going to be an ACT? I don't know. Well,
in my thoughts, I mean, just kind of being in this world for the last couple of years, I am finding where I'm with you on that it may be obsolete at some point in the future. I think who's driving it now are parents, because when I was in school, I had to take the SAT, and that counted towards my grade. You know what I mean? So I want my son or my daughter to take the SAT because it's going to count towards their grade. However, I think the pandemic, had a great impact on the testing, and that's why a lot of schools are going test optional. Here's the thing: now they can see without the testing, how did the student do, or how well did they fare in high school or whatever. And I think maybe now seeing that, just for example, doing online meetings versus in person, it's hey, it's not so bad to do an online meeting. I can get more done in my day because I don't have to actually physically get up and go somewhere.
Right.
I can stay here, do 12 meetings, and also get my work done. So it's now we're starting to see that, technology, is kind of helping us and, making things a little easier. And maybe that's the same knowledge that schools are, kind of coming into, this awareness that maybe we don't particularly need these tests. Look, we did it during the pandemic. We didn't require these exam scores, and everything was fine,
Right.
Versus, so some students turned them in, some students didn't. So maybe the test optional is just going to be the way to go. And I feel once people realize that grade is not weighing as heavily on their overall acceptance into a school, they'll probably stop taking them as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then the testing will kind of dwindle and then become obsolete.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I see that. I also see the fact that like if the test becomes obsolete and there's no more SAT, no more standardized testing, you can have students that maybe they don't go to a school like Gilman,
Exactly.
right? But they're really, really smart. They're geniuses maybe, and
Yeah.
maybe they don't really do well in the school setting. Their GPA is not that good, but if they took a test like that, they would get a 2400 or 1600.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's one hesitation I have with like getting rid of that test altogether is you kind of miss some of those students that don't have the, Gilman education and GPA.
But then on the flip side, you have students that, like myself, I don't test well, but I can sit in a classroom and I will totally nail it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's a two-edged sword. I'll sit down and take a test. And even when I'm like looking for jobs and I have to test for a job, I'll sit down and take a test and I'll totally bomb on it. But like, am I a great employee and can I do the work? Absolutely. So you know what I mean? It's like this thing where I feel like it could be an advantage and it still could be a disadvantage. So I think making it test optional road, I think that might be okay because then it's not going to like really determine. It may help, but it's not going to be the final determining factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like in my small mind and my small world, which it's not that, but I'm thinking like maybe keep it test optional, and especially for like the schools the lower income schools, like you said, or schools that may not have the
reputation,
curriculum intensity like Gilman, you know what I mean, or the reputation, that they'll also get a chance. I feel like this testing has kind of tilted the wheel toward in favor of the students who are privileged, have a little more access. Yeah, they got the tutors like you said. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe going the test optional route, maybe not completely taking it away because maybe some kids will need it. But I think, the test optional route may, or like I said, maybe obsolete. I know I proctored or I coordinated APs for the last 2 years. And I'm not going to say anything because I might incriminate myself. That's all I'm going to do is blow my eyes up.
APs? Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave that one alone.
Okay. So you're in the college counseling wing. What do you like about that new setup in there? For people who don't know, it's like I've been sniffing around there a little bit because
I know, Jake. We might have to give you an office.
I know, because I usually like to hang out in the library. It's a good setting. It's a nice space, pretty quiet, and they've got a Keurig in there, and they've got that's a secret though. But
yeah, you just put it out there though.
Then I found out about the college counseling wing. You guys got a little eating area, Keurig, it's nice and quiet. What's it like working in that new wing?
It's pretty amazing. So you know what, like I come from the corporate environment. Like, that's where I worked most of my career in these huge corporate industries such as T. Rowe Price. I mean, like I worked there for years. And so being in that office, it gives me like the best of both worlds. Like it feels corporate, you know what I mean? But I get to work with the boys, and I get to work with Anna, Justin, Sarah, and Matt, like four of the most, finest college counselors, like, and I'm not just saying it because I work, with them and I'm trying to get brownie points, in which I am, but I mean, if that works, okay, thanks. But no, they are amazing people. So it's like a low maintenance, low intensity environment, and it's beautiful while it's low intensity. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's a great environment, and I love that it's so beautiful because it draws people, and so people from all areas, middle school, lower school, preschool, upper school, everybody comes through there. Everybody wants to look around and hang out. Like you come down and hang out in our conference room. So that's amazing. Like, I get to talk to everybody all day.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't like that? You know what I
Right.
mean? I enjoy it. And so I love that the boys come down. They have, we have snacks there for them. If they want coffee, we offer them the coffee, And, they're like, wow, they feel so honored that they can have coffee. I'm just like, wow, it's the little things. But, I enjoy it. I think it's a great spot to be. So I think I landed well when I landed in that role.
For sure. What so you mentioned you were in the corporate world for a while. What was that experience like for you? What kind of led you there? And then maybe what made you want to change paths or change directions and get into education?
Yeah. Well, so come on, T. Rowe Price speaks for itself. I always wanted to work at T. Rowe. And so when I finally got there, it was like, wow, this is a huge check on my bucket list of places where, I would want to work and, be associated with. The problem with T. Rowe was my mother got sick, terminally ill, and I had to resign to full-term take care of her. And, that's what took me out of it. So, and I worked for the Baltimore Red Line that, Governor Hogan squashed. So I worked for that between T. Rowe Price and then coming into the school world. And that was great, but that project ended. So that ended my job. And so, so it was like one of these things where I'm just like, what would I like to do?
Yeah.
And I had my experience, administrative assistant experience, like years, 30, almost 40 years. And I'm kind of telling how old I am. I'm not that old, people. But, just what would I like to do? I love kids. I love, I'm not going to say children. I love young adults. I love, that they're in that stage of their lives where they're impressionable, and like something I say or some interaction they may have with me on a daily basis may somehow shape or impact them in a positive way.
Yep.
That I'm like, that's it, and so why not? So I talked to one of my friends, and I just kind of started like doing my research. I talked to one of my friends who was at the time working at Garrison, and she told me how she loved it, and I was like, let's give this a try. And there was a job that was available at Garrison, and so I applied for it, and I was got the love bug. It bit me, and I've been here ever since.
So back again to the question about the all girls and the all boys schools, because that does fascinate me. Is like, are you very? Do you believe in the single sex education for girls and guys? Do you think there's a lot of value in like Garrison Forest, all girls, and Gilman, all boys? Or do you see, because I feel like some schools are maybe shifting or combining schools and, co-education, and I went to a co-ed school.
Yeah.
Like, what do you like about, I guess, the single sex education, just from like a, philosophical aspect?
Yeah. Honestly, I would say if I were to open a school, and it would be the Avonte Jones Independent School.
I like the sound of that.
Me too, right? We might be onto something. I would definitely have it co-ed. So I can see how single sex, it keeps, it's believed that students are more focused because you don't have that competition for, the opposite sex. I don't want to get into that because I may get myself into trouble. But I can see how not having the opposite sex around so that I can focus. I can see how that could be an advantage.
Right.
However, I feel like having them around, it kind of prepares you a little bit better for real life, because what job am I going to work on that's single sex? I mean, unless, even in like sports and even in like the military, there are females around, or there are males around, So I kind of feel like it's kind of a false sense of reality for my future. So I would want my school to reflect what real life is going to be.
Yeah, that makes
Prepare
sense.
me for my next step in life. Don't send me out there vulnerable and unprepared for the next step. And I kind of feel like that, it kind of, and so then once I leave this all girls school, oh my God, there are boys here. And then, my mind is no longer focused as it could be if I'd already had that experience.
Yep.
And I'm not so, not a novice at it at this point. I'm like, I'm experienced at this, and look, I got to get my studies together because boys will be around or girls will be around, at some point. But, it's not that whole novelty.
I know. I remember my friends in college, some of my friends that went to all boys schools, like first week of school, they were like, there are girls in class. This is so weird.
Right.
I was like, I've been going to school with girls my whole life. Right. It's not weird at all.
It's not weird at all. Right. It's life. This is what's going to happen. You're going to have girls and boys together. So.
But what I do love, and I teach 11th, 12th grade, and all my classes are co-ed. So I have girls and guys in there for the first time. If you've gone to Gilman or you've gone to Bryn Mawr or Roland Park for your whole life, it's like the first time there's the opposite sex in the room. And that's one part of my job I really like, is those first couple of weeks, and it's like getting them to talk to each other and get them comfortable in the room. But I really like how Gilman and the Tri-School does that system, because it does at least prepares you a little bit for the next step.
I agree.
And I think it's so valuable. I teach English, and we have conversations, and you get the perspective of girls on certain things. And Bryn Mawr students are really, I think, just generally, they have different opinions or different mindsets in some ways than even Roland Park and Gilman for sure. And just getting all those ideas and backgrounds and perspectives in the same classroom. Yeah. It's so helpful.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
But
I agree.
Yeah, I think Gilman does a good job of making it the best of both.
I agree with
both
that.
worlds,
Yeah, and when I saw that model, I was like, oh wow, so here it is. So it's like once I get to this step, now this is what your next step is going to look like. This is so we're going to introduce girls into your life now, or boys into your life, your lives. So yeah, I totally I was like thumbs up on that, Gilman.
It is interesting though.
Yeah.
Because I always think about what it'd be like to go to a single sex school and be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Avonte Jones School.
That's right. CoEd. Avonte Jones CoEd School.
What was your kind of high school experience like in your upbringing? I know you're from Baltimore, so it's kind of, you've always been in Baltimore, right?
Yes.
What was your experience like growing up here and going to a CoEd high school?
Wow. Well, so let me give you this story. It's very funny. So my first day in high school, going into the 9th grade, and I walk into the classroom. It's Phyllis. Of course, I was a little late. That's kind of like my MO. I'm just a little late.
Fashionably late.
Yeah, you got to be fashionably late. So I walk in the classroom, and it gets death silent. So I'm looking around like, oh God, do I have something on my clothes? I'm like looking around. And so I then proceed to like look for a seat, and I sit down, and they were like, what? You're not the teacher? So I looked like the teacher in 9th grade, okay? And so it was the funniest. It's funny now. Of course, I was embarrassed. Like, hello, I'm a 9th grader. Don't do this to me. I was so embarrassed. But like, I always had the respect of my peers because I always looked much older than I was. I mean, so they respected me. So I had like this sort of reverence almost in school. They, I got the teasing because I was taller than everybody. And my mom dressed me like I was going to church every day. So, I had the respect of my peers. Believe it or not, they tried not to curse around me because they knew my dad was a pastor. So honestly, it was interesting. Because I had this reference from and they're still like that. If I run into any of my peers now, they're still that way. And I'm just kind of like, wow, like.
That's pretty awesome.
So it was awesome. I can't complain. I was a class president, and I did not want to be. They made me run for class president.
Wow.
So
you're like a born leader.
I'm going to
You're a born leader.
Yeah. That's why Avonte Jones CoEd School is probably not too off. It sounds like it's right in line with.
So you didn't even have to run for president? You were just appointed?
They made me run. I did run. But my friends, like the students, my like other 12th grade
your peers,
made me run.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so I ran. I was like, I'm not going to win. They're like, yes, you are, because we're going to vote for you. And I did win.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was class president as well.
Oh, wow. I can see that, Jake. You are a born leader as well.
Oh, thank you. But funny story, and I've had students in my class, like Mac Nichols was in my class last year, and Dylan Kamenetz was in my class, and they were both running for class president or school president. Yeah. And I had to tell them the story about I was president my freshman year, president my sophomore year. I was always kind of involved in student council. Yeah. And junior year, I had been president for 2 years. I was feeling pretty confident, pretty good about myself, Junior year, I think between sophomore and junior year, you get a little bit like, okay, I'm comfortable with this school. I know what I'm doing. You start to think you're pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, I was thinking I'm president. I'm pretty cool, whatever. And girl in my class, Molly Martin, she's like, I'm going to beat this guy. And she runs against me. And she was campaigning super hard. Like she had flyers up. She was a singer too. And we'll talk about your singing. She's
year.
a good singer.
Okay.
So she was out in the courtyard. I'd be walking, to my second period class, and she'd be out there singing and campaigning while she's singing. And I'm like,
clever Molly Martin.
And me, I was a junior or I guess rising junior, and I was like, I'm gonna beat her.
You're gonna beat, yeah.
She's no sweat. And I didn't campaign that hard. Like I was like, kind of arrogant, kind of conceited, which good lesson for me.
Yeah.
She wiped the floor with me. She was class president junior year, and I was like, that's not happening again. You can't, it's a good lesson.
Okay.
Like that's a really good lesson for me.
I agree. That
and
taught you. The
next year I was like campaigning super hard. I'm getting everyone to vote for me. I'm like got my proposals down.
Yeah.
We didn't really even do speeches like Gilman does.
I didn't do a speech either. Yeah.
Which I think is important. I think it's like
agree.
a good.
How do you know what I'm gonna do if you don't hear what I have to say? I agree.
And you need to if you're a class president, you need to talk.
You need to be able to deliver.
Yeah, exactly. Make some promises.
That's right.
But I won the senior year.
Okay,
but
good.
One of the best I think lessons for me is because you start to think you don't have to try that hard, and that's just not true for anything. So
it's the old, what is it? The tortoise and the hare, the turtle, and oh God, I can't say it. Say it.
Tortoise.
Tortoise and the hare.
Tortoise and the hare.
Remember that?
Yep.
The hare was relaxing, like I don't have to,
Yeah.
And the tortoise. Let me not. I'm embarrassing myself.
The turtle and the hare.
The turtle and the hare. Yeah. The turtle and the rabbit. How about that?
Perfect.
Yeah.
So after you were president, you were appointed,
Yeah.
and it sounds like you had pretty good high school experience. What was the next step for you, kind of getting to college and going to the next, I guess, stage of your life?
Well, here's a lesson to all of you that are listening. So in my 12th grade year, class president, I had been on the Baltimore City Student Council. That's like the city, the government. Like I was on that. I got on the Oprah Winfrey show. She did she did a show with Baltimore City Schools because there was a lot of violence in the schools at the time when I was in high school in the 90s. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm old. So
Not old.
A lot of violence in the 90s. So I was on that panel, the student panel. So, but then guess what happened? I got mixed up with a boy. Oh, man. And my grades plummeted. So I went from an A student to a good C. And he totally took my focus. I didn't get the opportunities that I could have gotten. Everybody was looking at me. I was in line for scholarships. You name it. Mm-hmm. Guess what? I took my focus off, and I paid attention to a boy. So from that perspective, I can see how a CoEd school might not have been in to my benefit. So I had to go to Baltimore Community College because my grades were low, and I had to do what's the word? 2 years.
Gap year?
No, it wasn't a gap year. It was like a 2-year transition type of education. Okay. So I went there for 2 years. Actually, wound up being 3. And then I wound up at Coppin State. And so before I could go to Coppin, I had to get my grades up enough to be even accepted at Coppin. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'd gone down. Guys, really, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Wait until you graduate. And even in college, wait until you graduate or you have it before you get into these relationships. They're going to be there,
mm-hmm.
especially if you're going to go completely ham like me.
Coppin State. Tell me about Coppin.
I'm a little sweaty. Honestly, I can't remember Coppin. I can tell you one experience about Coppin, and that was Dr. Harvey. She was my history teacher, and Dr. Harvey was like a high school teacher. So between financial aid and me working and paying for my books and, whatever leftover I had to pay for, I was paying for my own education. Well, Dr. Harvey decided I talked too much in her class. So she called my parents to tell them that, I'm not focused and I'm playing in her class. So my father had to tell her, Dr. Harvey, we'll talk to her, but Avonte is paying for her own education, so ultimately she's throwing her own money away. But I did shape up. I did respect her because I'm like, okay, she really must be interested in my future, and so I shaped up. My dad did talk to me. He's just like, come on, don't be disrespectful. You know better.
And what class? What class did she teach? Oh, it's history.
Yeah,
history.
My history teacher. Mm-hmm. I think she's deceased at this point. It's been a long time. That was the 90s. Okay. I'll say that again. Yes, I'm old, everybody.
Was history a favorite subject of yours in school? What were some of your...
English.
English?
English.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I was an education major. So I didn't graduate. I dropped out.
You were education major.
Education major. I love English. I still love English. But yeah, that's my story.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't mind that you guys know that I dropped out. I do plan to go back to school. Concentration in therapy, counseling, mental health.
Oh, great.
In 2022. So nice. I'm going to complete it, everybody. So encourage me when you see me. Come on, Miss Jones, you can do it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm going to finish it.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
That's awesome.
And that's also like a dedication to my brother who passed in June. I'm going to do this for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I kind of glossed over the Oprah show you were on, Oprah Winfrey. What was that experience like? You were just a panelist on her show, but what was that like for you?
So I totally clammed up when I got there. So there was a guy, I cannot think of his name, something like Kofi or something, Kobe or Kofi. So he was like this dynamic person, smart, and he was very vocal, verbal, not shy at all, okay? And so he kind of like took the show. And I was there. I did ask her one question, and I noticed that she kept looking at me. Here's the thing. Back then, I wanted to be Oprah Winfrey. I wanted to be a talk show host. And so, like, I was there, and I'm like, oh, my God, I'm with Oprah Winfrey, So I kind of, I fanned out on it, a little bit. I like I said, I did get one question. I was on TV a couple times, when she did that show. But she actually came here. We were at, I think it was Southern High School or Southwestern. They're closed now. Like I said, this has been years ago. And she was here in Baltimore because, she's from here. And, it was really cool. I got a chance to talk to her and hug her. And, she touched my face and, like, I almost passed out. So, yeah, it was a great experience. I would still love to be a talk show host. So maybe I can take my therapy to television. Hey.
You might be a podcaster, maybe.
Hey, why not?
That's like
why not? Jake and Avonte show.
Yeah. That'd be pretty fun.
I think so. I'm with it. But yeah, these are. But I have to get my degree in therapy. I have to do that because that's a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I think I want my target audience to be school age, high school age children.
When did you find out that therapy was a passion of yours? Was it kind of somewhere along the lines after after college, after leaving Coppin, or the corporate world, or when you were at Garrison? Like, when did you kind of figure out that therapy was what you were meant to do, I guess? I'm in therapy myself. Yeah. And through my own experiences and working with my therapist, who's amazing. Yeah. So just like, over the years being in therapy and just kind of like how I'm able to, like, all the stuff that everybody's got pain, everybody's got issues. We've all experienced something traumatic in our lives. I'm sorry, I'm a little sweaty, y'all. Yeah, it's a little warm in here. Over the years, just dealing with all of my traumas, and just how interesting it is that, sitting down and speaking with someone who's got the knowledge, they can take that thought that was so traumatic to me and kind of like redirect it to make it empower me to become better. When I leave therapy, I feel empowered. I feel like I can do this. Like I can live this life. Like I'm strong enough to handle all of these challenges that I'm going to face in life. If she did that for me, then I want to do that for someone else. Yeah. Getting through that many deaths in 1 year, like less than 3 months,
And being able to, like I said, show up now. I'm not going to say it's easy. Some days I literally can't move. I feel like I am like paralyzed in the bed because the pain is so great. But here's the thing, feeling that pain is okay. I learned that in therapy. I am learning how to navigate through my life's challenges by going to therapy, by speaking with someone who's got the knowledge to help guide my thoughts, guide my pain, guide my traumas, and help that to empower me to grow, to use that as a growth experience, a growth opportunity to make me better and not bitter. And so that feeling of not walking around bitter.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Amazing. Yes, I'm saying not being bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, being bitter is the worst. It is the worst. I don't ever want to walk around bitter.
Yeah, and I feel like it is so easy to become bitter with all the things that you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
like why did I have to lose my brother who was only 55?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Why couldn't he live? Why can some of these bad people die? You know what I mean?
Right.
But like you can't think like that.
Yep.
Because you know what I found out? That if only bad people, bad things only happen to bad people, then how would that make me good? Think about that. I'm not going to pray for or send best wishes to a bad person, but I will a good person. That's going to make me, meditate, pray, focus, and try, like will that person to become better because they're a good person. We need them here. A bad person, I'm like, that's you get what you get what you put out there. Sorry for your loss, buddy. but I feel like it, that's what's taught me that bad things are not going to only happen to bad people. It's going to happen to good people because it's going to make me in that process a better person. And not that I'm making light of something bad happening to a good person. It's just life. It's inevitable. Trauma, pain is going to happen to everybody. And so it's how we deal with that, trauma and pain.
So in therapy, what are some of the tools, I guess, that you're kind of learning and incorporating to kind of get through some of these really hard times and hardships that you face? Like you talked about maybe meditation and prayer and kind of different practices that you incorporate. What are some of those that have really helped you?
Definitely meditation and prayer. Just quiet time. It's okay to pull myself away from everything and everybody. And in today's world and society, we're taught that selfishness is a bad thing. And it's not. It's a good thing. It's okay to be selfish, to take yourself off the market for a minute. Refocus yourself, because guess what? I'm a better person when I'm focused. I have more to offer. I'm more creative. I have more to give you when I'm focused. But when I am like pulled in all these different directions, I'm hanging on by a thread, I have nothing to give you. So it's best to take yourself off the market so that now I'm a better person and I have more to give you. So that's one thing. I've also learned that I can't look at every experience as a bad thing. Some bad things come to help me to grow, because like, just imagine you are 48 years old, I'm 48, and you still have the mentality and life experiences of an 18-year-old. How would that look? A 48-year-old woman walking around with an 18-year-old mentality. Doesn't work. Those experiences teach me, they train me, they, smooth me out like sandpaper. They smooth out my rough edges, make me a better person, make me stronger, able to handle life, more resilient. You know what I mean? That's what, bad experiences are sent for, to grow you up, to strengthen you. Like I said, to smooth out those rough edges. That's what happens. So I can't look at every bad experience as a bad experience. Look at it as a growth opportunity. Look at it as me being refined and becoming better, again, and not bitter, not staying stagnant in that spot and, sobbing and sulking over what happened wrong. Stay there for a little while, but get up and let's push forward, because guess what? I was trained now for this next level in my life. I was trained, I was strengthened, and, my integrity is better now. I'm strengthened, I'm strong, my mind is stronger, I have, I'm wiser now because, life has taught me something. I have a lesson now under my belt. I can help you. I can help me, make the world a better place. So that's like a huge lesson that I've learned in therapy. And just, I am a very, very, very shy, low-key person. Okay, yeah. I'm very high-strung. I'm very emotional. I'm very passionate.
Yep.
And I'm learning how to direct that into a positive path and not so much just letting it go. You got to direct it so that it is beneficial and not
direct your energy.
My energy, my passion, my emotions, because I'm like this very emotional person. Direct it so that it is positive and not like this outburst of
right,
sometimes
chaos.
Chaos, that's right. Organized chaos is what I'm learning to make my life, my personality, organized chaos.
Tell me about the meditation though, because that's something that I'm really interested in and has helped me a lot. What are your meditation practices? How'd you get into it? How has it helped you? We've had Sarah Ross, is a huge meditation advocate, and Cheryl Nakabo, they were on the podcast and we were talking about it because they have like a meditation club at Gilman for students. Yeah. What are some of the things that you do with meditation, and how has that really helped you? I feel like it's such an important tool.
It is. Meditation has helped me to focus. Simple as that. Focused. I notice those mornings where I oversleep and I jump up and I'm running like, oh my God, I'm so off that day. Like, everything that comes at me, I'm feeling it. It's impacting me, or, it's upsetting me or irritating me because I didn't take that time to focus, to stop, think about things, put things into perspective, and kind of have a guided day and not this day where things are, I'm reacting to things, but I'm being proactive toward things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's what meditation does for me. So I, in the mornings, I have time where I have devotionals that I read positive affirmations, anything that's going to affirm me, affirm my, my positive self, my strong self, my helpful self, anything that's going to affirm that, I try to take that in, whether it's a Bible verse, whether it's a Bible-related devotional, whether it's a positive poem, whether it's something that I wrote in my journal, and I go back and read, what happened, a few months ago or maybe a year or two ago, seeing my growth, like how I thought then and how I, know that now I'm a little bit better than I was back then. Or, let me grab that and take that into my future. That's something that I can bring with me. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that I do in the morning to try to focus, to center myself, to make sure I am, not allowing outside influences to impact me internally, that internally I'm solid. Right. And outside influences can't penetrate that. Now, I can't say that it happens all the time because, like I said, some mornings I jump up and I'm like, ah! Yep. But those days when I'm focused, the negativity, I can't allow it to penetrate me because I'm so focused. I've meditated, I've prayed. I spoke with, my Heavenly Father, and I'm good. And, and not only am I good for me, but I'm hoping to offer something because I'm in an environment with a lot of impressionable people all day.
True.
So I have to have something, even if it's just a smile, hello, are you okay?
Right.
To be able to see that somebody's in trouble or somebody's hurting, to see that and feel that and just offer them a positive word. I'm not going to sit and, become a therapist to them, but I'm going to say, hey, you doing okay? You want a piece of candy? You doing okay? You know what I mean?
You're at the front desk. I mean, you kind of have to, right? You can't
absolutely.
You can't be mad, upset, grouchy,
Absolutely,
dealing with your own. You have to, that's your kind of role. You need to be right with yourself before you do that.
That's true. But disclaimer, sometimes I might be grouchy though. You have to allow yourself to be human. And I will try my best to say, hey, not having a good day today.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
I have to allow myself that. I cannot sit there and be perfect because in my perfection, I'm going to lose my mind.
Right.
So let me be honest. Sometimes I'm not, but for the most part, I try my best to, be positive and to, have something positive to offer to everyone that I, come in contact with.
You did mention journaling, and journaling is something that I try to do as much as I can or think about. And there's one thing that I remember. I read this book, Green Lights, last year, Matthew McConaughey's book. And he's got an interesting story because he had journaled for like 30 years every day of his life, which is pretty hard to do, number one.
Where do you get the time?
When you're busy. And, but I like the thought that he writes about in his book where he says, when he looks back at his journals, he likes to look back at the times when things are going really, really well and he's doing his best and, he's hitting green lights and he uses that phrase.
Yeah.
And he reads those and he's like, okay, at this time in my life, I was doing this, this, and this. Maybe I need to get back to doing that again so I can bring those good times, that good energy back into the present. Yes. And I always really like that thought because, you can focus, you can choose your focus. Yes. You can focus on the bad things, or you can kind of go back and figure out what it is that was working well that you can, incorporate into your present moment in your day right now.
Right. Yep.
Which I like.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avonte, so tell me about your singing. We talked about Molly Martin, my
your nemesis.
Yeah, my nemesis in high school. She's a great singer. But the first time I saw you singing was, I think, on Zoom maybe last year during the holiday party, and I was like, wow, she's a great singer.
Wow, thank you.
How'd you kind of get into that, and what's that experience been like singing?
My dad was a Pentecostal pastor, so I grew up in church, and since he was the pastor, everything that had to happen happened with his children. So 7 of us, okay? And so if he needed ushers, we were the ushers. If he needed a singer, we were the singers. Whatever he needed, that's what we were. So basically, my whole life, I've been singing. My family had a group. It was the Jones Singers. And then, the Jones Singers, once my sister started having babies, became the Jones Brothers. I sang back up to them. And so they were kind of, a local popular group, gospel singing group at the time. So basically, I've been singing all my life. I was a choir director at a big church in Baltimore County for about 12, 13 years. That's where I met Eric Marner and worked with him. And, he was a sax player at the church, and I was one of the choir directors. So that's where I came in contact with Mr. Marner, and we had become friends, And so, I've been teaching singing, teaching voice, vocal training, singing on the choir, lead singing in groups my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a huge part of you.
A huge part of who I am. Yeah.
How about kind of recently, like when do you, like how often are you singing, like on a kind of weekly basis? Like when do you kind of make time for that now?
I sing in church, so I sing at different churches. I sang at my brother's church during the pandemic, when we were recording, and I sang at, different churches where I would lay vocals down and send it off, and they would, play it during certain parts of the church service. I did a lot of singing. The pandemic was fun because, you get to get in there, sing, and get out. I hate to say this, but sometimes church can be a little long.
Yeah.
I didn't have to deal with that. Just got in there and sang, and I got to leave. So I was like, I got the best of it. I get to sing and leave. So I sing every Sunday. I do have like maybe fifth Sundays as a break when there's a fifth Sunday, but I sing every Sunday in a praise team or a choir, and I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I get paid to do it too.
Oh wow. I always kind of wished I got into music a little bit. I'm not.
Never too late, Jake. Never too late.
Never too late. True. Maybe I can work on some vocals with you. Yeah.
You can come down to the conference room and we can do vocal training. We can turn that conference room into anything. A music studio,
that's the spot.
Photography studio, whatever you want it to be. It can be that. Let's do it.
Yeah, I love that place.
Yes. Yeah.
To kind of wrap up the podcast for today, your book recommendation for everyone that they need to read that is cherished by you, your favorite book of all time,
is the Bible.
It's the Bible, baby.
And that's easy for me because that's the book that I grew up on. My parents taught us the Bible. I went to Sunday school. I went to evening church school. I went to vacation Bible school in the summertime. The Bible is very much an integral part of my life, my family's lives. Like I have two brothers that are pastors now. All of my siblings are some sort of preacher or evangelist or something, except me. I'm not. Okay. I sing. That's I'm good with that. But the Bible, and I love to read the Message Bible, and I love to read the Living Translation because it breaks it down. I still read the King James Version, but the Bible, and let me say this, I've learned that the Bible is a book that was written by man, inspired, by God, but it was written by man, and it's a personal experience. And while we have preachers and teachers to teach us, their interpretation, ultimately it's your connection and your understanding, and you have to make sure that your understanding is what you live by and not what somebody's telling you. And that's like the biggest lesson I've learned as it relates to the Bible, that it's my experience and my relationship that I am living each day.
Yeah.
And I can take in other people's thoughts and, or whatever, but I'm not living by that. I'm living by what I believe and what I've learned and how I've interpreted it.
Yeah. And that's super important, I think, for any book too. And I teach English, and I try to say that too, is like some of you might really relate to this poem or this short story or this book that we're going to read. Yes. Some of you may hate it and not get it, and that's okay. It depends on when you read it, how it hits you, how you interpret it. It's very personal experience.
Exactly. What season you are in your life. Maybe I don't relate to it today, but maybe next week I will. Because, like I said, life experiences have put me in a place where now, I get it. You know what I mean? So, your personal experience.
The Bible's a great choice because it's a really amazing book, and I don't think it really matters what you believe. If you just look at it as a text, it's an amazing story, and it's put together, and it's an amazing book.
I look at it like this: words to live by.
Yeah.
Words to live by through my own interpretation. The Bible, that's words to live by.
Do you have a favorite chapter of the Bible?
There is a scripture. It's Psalm 27, and it says, "Fret not yourself because of evildoers, because in due season they will be plucked up like the grass." And I'm paraphrasing. I'm not saying it exactly like it says it. But basically, I take that as, don't compare myself to other people. Stay in my lane, march in my position. And, you'll soon see, it'll open up and be like, oh. So to be, covetous or jealous or envious of someone else, that's not where it's at. March in your lane, stay focused, and don't worry about what other people are doing. Life will reveal itself to you, and you'll understand it eventually better.
I think that's great advice for anyone, in high school especially. Because it's so easy to get caught up.
It's a monster.
It's a monster.
Comparison is a monster, and it's ugly. Do not fall into that comparison thing. It's awful.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. March in your position. Hold your spot. There are enough slices of pie for all of us to get a piece. I don't need your slice. You don't need mine.
Avonte, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Great conversation.
Great.
Thanks for sharing more about you. And we'll see you in the counseling office.
In the counseling office in the conference room doing our vocal lessons. Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Okay, we'll see you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.